Hey friend. Tonight, you aren't a king wrapped in velvet. You aren't a knight riding into glorious battle. And you certainly aren't a wealthy lord enjoying a roaring fire behind thick castle walls. No. Tonight. You're an ordinary medieval peasant. And your greatest enemy isn't war. It isn't plague. It isn't even hunger. It's the cold. The kind of cold that slips through every crack in your house, bites your fingers before sunrise, and refuses to leave until spring finally remembers your village exists. The first snow hasn't fallen yet. But everyone knows it's coming. The air carries that familiar bite. The trees stand silent. Even the birds seem eager to disappear. Around your tiny village, every family works from sunrise until darkness. Bundles of firewood are stacked against rough wooden walls. Barrels of salted vegetables are pushed into storage. Sacks of barley and oats are counted again and again. Nobody asks whether winter will be difficult. The only question is, will the food last? Your house isn't much larger than a single modern bedroom. Its walls are made from woven branches covered in mud and straw. Strong enough to stand. Not strong enough to stop the wind. When the evening breeze arrives, tiny drafts creep through invisible cracks, making the fire dance across the stone hearth. You glance at the roof. Fresh bundles of thatch were tied there only days ago. Hopefully. They survived the storms. Inside, the room already smells of smoke, damp earth, old wood, and drying herbs hanging from the ceiling. It's home. Not because it's comfortable. Because it's yours. Outside, the daylight fades quickly. Children are called indoors. Animals grow strangely quiet. The entire village seems to hold its breath. Then, far across the frozen fields, the wind begins to howl. Winter has arrived. And for the next several months, simply waking up each morning will feel like a small miracle. Part 2. Morning arrives without warmth. The pale winter sun climbs above the trees, but it offers little more than light. You open the wooden door. A sharp blast of freezing air immediately reminds you who's in charge. Fresh snow covers the village. Every rooftop is white. Every fence has disappeared beneath thick drifts. Even the narrow paths between cottages have vanished overnight. The world feels quieter. Almost too quiet. Your boots sink into the snow with every step. Each movement takes more effort than yesterday. By midday, you're already exhausted. Not from adventure. Simply from existing. The firewood stack beside your house suddenly looks much smaller. It seemed like enough during autumn. Now, it looks frighteningly limited. Every log you burn today is one you won't have tomorrow. Inside, the fire crackles softly. You don't feed it large pieces of wood. That would be wasteful. Instead, you carefully add small branches, hoping to make the warmth last longer. The room never becomes truly warm. Only slightly less cold. You stretch your hands toward the flames. Your fingertips sting as they slowly thaw. The heat reaches your face. Your feet remain frozen. Across the room, your family quietly counts the food. A small loaf of dark barley bread. A few onions. Dried beans. Salted cabbage. Nothing here is meant to taste wonderful. It's simply meant to keep everyone alive. Outside, the village blacksmith strikes his hammer one final time before closing his workshop. Soon, even he won't have enough fuel to keep the forge burning. As afternoon fades, gray clouds gather once again. The village elder looks toward the sky without saying a word. He has seen enough winters to recognize the signs. Another storm is coming. A stronger one. You pull your wool cloak tighter around your shoulders and carry another armful of wood inside. Tonight. No one expects comfort. Only survival. The storm arrives after sunset. Not with thunder. Not with lightning. Just wind. Endless, freezing wind. It pushes against your little house until every wooden beam groans in protest. You pull the door shut one more time, even though you know it won't make much difference. The cold always finds a way inside. It slips through tiny cracks in the walls. It sneaks beneath the roof. It curls around your ankles like an unwelcome visitor who refuses to leave. The fire burns steadily in the hearth. But the flames are small. Too much wood tonight means too little tomorrow. Every family in the village knows the same difficult lesson. A bright fire is comforting. A careful fire keeps you alive. You kneel beside the hearth and stir the glowing embers with a stick. For a few moments, the room feels almost pleasant. Then another icy draft crosses the floor. The warmth disappears as quickly as it came. Outside, the animals grow restless. The cow shifts inside its shelter. The chickens huddle together without making a sound. Even they understand winter better than words ever could. You glance toward the small window. Or rather, the tiny opening covered with stretched animal hide. Snow presses against it from the outside. Soon, there will be nothing to see but white. The children have already fallen asleep beneath rough wool blankets. Not because they're warm. Because they're tired. The kind of tired that comes from working since sunrise. You sit quietly beside the fire, listening. The crackling wood. The whistling wind. The creaking roof. Every sound reminds you how fragile this little house truly is. Somewhere beyond the darkness, wolves begin to howl. The sound carries across the frozen fields. No one rushes outside. No one even opens the door. Tonight belongs to the winter. And everyone inside the village knows. The longest nights have only just begun. By the fourth morning, you've stopped hoping to feel warm. Instead, you judge the day by a simpler question. Can you still feel your fingers? If the answer is yes, it's already a good start. The fire in the hearth has burned low during the night. Only a few glowing embers remain beneath a blanket of gray ash. You kneel beside them, gently blowing until tiny orange sparks come back to life. Starting a new fire from nothing would waste precious time. Keeping yesterday's alive is much easier. And much smarter. Outside, the snow reaches almost to your knees. Every trip beyond the house now feels like walking through wet sand. Slow. Heavy. Relentless. You grab your small wooden axe and make your way toward the woodpile. The stack has become noticeably shorter. Not empty. But no longer comforting. Each log now feels valuable enough to count. The village is awake. Thin trails of smoke rise from every chimney, disappearing into the pale gray sky. Nobody talks loudly. Cold weather steals energy from conversations as easily as it steals warmth from hands. An old neighbor slowly walks past your house carrying a bundle of sticks. You exchange a silent nod. No words are needed. Everyone is fighting the same battle. Back inside, a pot of barley porridge hangs above the fire. It's thin. Almost more water than grain. Still. The warm steam filling the room feels like a small gift. You take one careful spoonful. It isn't delicious. But it spreads a little warmth through your chest. For a brief moment, winter seems slightly less cruel. Then another gust of wind rattles the walls. The roof creaks overhead. You look toward the door without moving. The season has a way of reminding everyone. It isn't finished with you yet. The cold changes the way you think. You stop dreaming about comfort. You start celebrating tiny victories. A dry pair of socks. A fire that stays lit until dawn. A loaf of bread without mold. These become treasures. After breakfast, you pull on your rough wool cloak and step outside. The snow squeaks beneath your boots. The sound is strangely loud in the still morning air. The village looks peaceful. Almost beautiful. If you didn't know better, you might believe winter was gentle. But beauty can be misleading. A frozen stream means no fresh water. You and several neighbors carry wooden buckets toward a hole chopped through the thick ice. The water below is black and painfully cold. You lower the bucket carefully. One careless movement could send you into the freezing water. And everyone knows what that usually means. The journey home feels longer. The bucket grows heavier with every step. Your hands ache despite the wool wrapped around them. By the time you reach your cottage, your fingers are stiff enough to barely hold the handle. Inside, the warmth from the hearth slowly returns feeling to your hands. It hurts. Not a sharp pain. A slow burning ache. Almost everyone in the village knows this feeling. You place the fresh water beside the fire before it has a chance to freeze again. Nothing can be wasted. Not wood. Not food. Not even heat. As evening approaches, dark clouds gather once more over the hills. Snow begins falling without a sound. Soft. Slow. Endless. You watch through the small window as the world outside slowly disappears beneath another white blanket. Tomorrow morning. You'll wake to a village that looks completely different. But one thing will remain exactly the same. Winter will still be waiting outside your door. By now, your daily routine feels almost predictable. Wake up. Check the fire. Pray the roof is still standing. Hope no one became sick during the night. In winter, illness spreads quietly. A simple cough can linger for weeks. A fever can empty an entire cottage of laughter. There are no doctors waiting nearby. Only old remedies passed from one generation to the next. Your grandmother hangs bunches of dried herbs above the hearth. Mint. Sage. Yarrow. Whether they truly cure illness or simply give people hope, no one can say for certain. But hope is valuable during winter. Sometimes more valuable than medicine itself. Outside, the wind finally rests. The silence feels almost unnatural. You decide it's the perfect chance to inspect the roof. Climbing onto a frozen thatched roof is never a good idea. Unfortunately. Neither is letting snow pile too high. One careful step after another, you pull yourself upward. The village stretches before you. Every rooftop is covered in white. Thin streams of smoke drift lazily into the cold sky. For a brief moment, everything looks peaceful. Then your foot slips. Your heart jumps. You catch yourself before falling, gripping the icy thatch with both hands. You stay perfectly still. Breathing. Listening. Finally, you laugh to yourself. A quiet laugh. Not because it was funny. Because you're still alive. Back inside, your family welcomes you with a bowl of warm cabbage soup. It's little more than hot water with a few vegetables floating inside. Yet somehow, it tastes wonderful. Perhaps hunger has become the finest cook in the village. As darkness slowly returns, you place another small log onto the fire. The flames flicker gently across the room. Outside, winter waits patiently. It isn't rushing. It knows it has many more weeks to test everyone who dares to call this frozen village home. The hidden tunnel grew narrower as Elias moved deeper into the darkness. The walls around him were covered with strange symbols carved into ancient stone. They looked like warnings, but he could not understand their meaning. The only light came from the small lantern in his hand, which flickered every few seconds as if something unseen was moving through the cold air. The silence was so deep that Elias could hear his own heartbeat echoing through the tunnel. After walking for what felt like hours, he reached a massive wooden door buried beneath the earth. Unlike the rest of the tunnel, the door looked untouched by time. Strange metal markings covered its surface, and in the center was a symbol identical to the one he had found on the old map. Elias placed his hand on the door, and suddenly the entire tunnel began to shake. A low sound came from behind the door, almost like someone whispering his name. Elias. He stepped back in fear. Nobody knew he was there. Nobody could have followed him into this forgotten place. The door slowly opened by itself. Behind it was a huge underground chamber filled with forgotten treasures, ancient books, and broken weapons from a lost civilization. In the middle of the room stood a stone table with a single object resting on it, a golden key glowing faintly in the darkness. As Elias approached the table, he noticed words carved into the stone beneath the key. Only the one who discovers the truth can unlock the past. He reached for the key, but before his fingers touched it, the sound of footsteps came from the shadows behind him. Someone else was inside the chamber. Elias turned around slowly, holding his lantern high. A mysterious figure stepped out of the darkness and said, "You were never supposed to find this place." The mysterious figure slowly stepped into the light. Elias raised his lantern and tried to see the stranger's face. The person wore an old black cloak covered with dust, as if he had spent years hiding beneath the earth. "Who are you?" Elias asked. The stranger looked at the golden key on the stone table and said, "That key is not just a piece of metal. It holds the secret of a forgotten world." Elias stared at him in confusion. "What secret?" The old man opened an ancient book. Inside were drawings of the underground chamber, the strange symbols, and a person holding the same golden key. Elias became speechless. The person in the drawing looked exactly like him. "This cannot be real," Elias whispered. The old man looked at him seriously. "Your family has a connection with this place. Many generations ago, your ancestors protected this secret." Elias felt a chill. All his life, he thought his family was normal. Nobody had ever told him about hidden tunnels or ancient mysteries. "Why did they hide this from me?" Elias asked. Before the old man could answer, a loud noise came from the tunnel behind them. Someone was approaching. The stranger's expression changed. "They are here." "Who are they?" Elias asked. "The ones who destroyed this civilization. They have been searching for this place for hundreds of years." Suddenly, dark figures appeared at the entrance of the chamber. The old man quickly handed the key to Elias. "You must leave now. Do not let them take this key." A hidden door opened behind the stone table. Elias looked back one last time as the mysterious figures entered the room. Then he ran into the darkness, carrying the key that could reveal the greatest secret of his family's past. Elias ran through the hidden passage as fast as he could. The sound of footsteps behind him became louder with every second. The narrow tunnel was dark and dangerous, but he knew he could not stop. The golden key in his hand started glowing faintly. Strange symbols appeared on the walls as he passed, as if the key was awakening something that had been sleeping for centuries. Suddenly, the passage ended in front of a huge stone wall. Elias looked around in panic. There was nowhere to go. Then the key began to move by itself. A small light came from its surface and pointed toward a hidden symbol on the wall. Elias placed the key into the symbol. A deep rumbling sound filled the tunnel. The stone wall slowly moved aside, revealing another secret room. Inside was a small chamber filled with ancient scrolls, maps, and strange machines that looked far ahead of their time. At the center of the room was a large wooden box. Elias opened it carefully. Inside, he found a letter written by someone who shared his family name. The first line made his heart stop. "To the last guardian of the hidden kingdom." Elias continued reading. The letter revealed that his ancestors were not ordinary people. They were protectors of an ancient civilization that disappeared without a trace. They had hidden their knowledge underground to keep it away from those who wanted to use it for power. But the letter contained a warning. The key does not only unlock doors. It can awaken something that must never return. Before Elias could understand the meaning, the sound of the stone door opening echoed behind him. The people chasing him had found the passage. Elias quickly folded the letter and took the box with him. But as he turned to escape, he saw something carved on the wall. A message meant only for him. Your journey has just begun. Elias stared at the message carved into the ancient wall. The words seemed impossible, yet they felt like they were written specifically for him. Your journey has just begun. A cold wind passed through the chamber, making the lantern flame shake. Elias quickly placed the letter inside his bag and searched for another way out. Behind the wooden box, he discovered a small opening covered by stones. He pushed them aside and found a narrow tunnel leading deeper underground. For a moment, Elias hesitated. The safe choice was to return, but he knew the people chasing him were waiting outside. The only option was to move forward. He entered the tunnel. After walking for several minutes, he reached a massive underground hall. Unlike the old tunnels, this place looked different. The walls were covered with glowing crystals, and the air felt strangely warm. In the center of the hall stood a giant stone statue of a warrior holding a sword. On the statue's chest was the same symbol as the golden key. Elias stepped closer. Suddenly, the statue's eyes began to glow. A deep voice filled the chamber. Guardian of the key, why have you returned? Elias froze. He had no idea how to answer. I don't know who I am supposed to be, he said quietly. The voice replied, you carry the blood of those who protected this world. But the choice you make now will decide its future. Before Elias could ask anything else, the ground started shaking. Cracks appeared across the hall, and a hidden door opened beneath the statue. From inside came a powerful light. The golden key in Elias's hand began glowing brighter than ever before. Then the voice spoke again. Beyond this door lies the truth about your family, and the secret that was buried for centuries. Elias looked into the mysterious doorway. He knew that once he entered, there would be no way back. Elias took a deep breath and stepped through the hidden doorway beneath the ancient statue. The moment he entered, the door behind him closed with a powerful sound. The room beyond was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were covered with thousands of ancient paintings showing battles, kings, and a civilization that had vanished from history. In the center of the room stood a large crystal sphere placed on a stone platform. As Elias approached, the sphere began to shine. A vision appeared inside it. He saw a great city hidden beneath the earth. People lived there with incredible knowledge and technology far beyond their time. But suddenly, a group of enemies attacked the city, destroying everything they had built. Among the defenders was a young warrior holding the golden key. Elias watched carefully. The warrior turned toward him. And Elias realized something shocking. The warrior had his face. The vision disappeared. Elias stepped back in disbelief. How can this be? He whispered. Then he noticed a small inscription beneath the crystal. Every guardian must discover the truth before protecting it. Suddenly, a noise came from behind the door. The people who were following him had reached the chamber. Elias quickly looked around for an escape route. But there was no other exit. The crystal sphere started glowing again, and a hidden message appeared. Only a true guardian can awaken the path. Elias held the golden key tightly and placed it near the crystal. The entire room shook. A secret pathway opened beneath the platform, revealing stairs leading even deeper into the unknown. But before Elias could enter, the stone door behind him broke open. The mysterious hunters entered the room. Their leader looked at Elias and smiled. Finally, we found the last guardian. Elias stood frozen as the hunters surrounded the ancient chamber. Their leader stepped forward slowly, wearing a dark coat and a cold expression. So many years of searching, and finally the key has returned, the man said. Elias tightened his grip on the golden key. Who are you? The man smiled. We are the ones who know the true power of this civilization. Your ancestors hid it because they were afraid. But we are not afraid. Elias looked at the crystal sphere and remembered the warning from the ancient message. The key was not just a treasure. It was something dangerous. You will never get it, Elias said. The leader laughed. You still don't understand. The key does not belong to you. It belongs to history. Suddenly, the crystal sphere released a bright wave of energy. The entire chamber shook, and the hunters stepped back in fear. The ancient voice returned. The guardian has made his choice. A hidden path opened beneath Elias's feet. Without thinking, he jumped into the passage. He fell down a long stone staircase and landed in a forgotten underground city. Elias looked around in amazement. Huge buildings stood in silence. Ancient lights still glowed on the walls, and statues of unknown rulers watched over the empty streets. This was the lost civilization that everyone believed had disappeared forever. But Elias was not alone. A shadow moved between the buildings. Someone was watching him. Then a voice whispered from the darkness. You finally came back, Guardian. Elias turned around. A person stepped forward, carrying an ancient weapon and wearing the symbol of the same key. You need to know the truth about what happened here, before they destroy everything again. Part 13. Elias looked at the stranger standing in front of him. The person carried an ancient weapon and wore the same symbol that was carved on the golden key. Who are you? Elias asked. The stranger lowered the weapon and replied, My name is Cale. I am the last protector of this forgotten city. Elias was confused. But this city disappeared hundreds of years ago. Cale looked around at the empty streets. That is what the world was meant to believe. The city was not destroyed. It was hidden. Elias slowly looked at the ancient buildings surrounding them. Why was it hidden? Cale became serious. Because of a power that could change the entire world. Your ancestors discovered something beneath this city. Something that could give people unlimited knowledge, or destroy everything. Elias remembered the warning written in the old letter. The key does not only unlock doors. It can awaken something that must never return. Cale looked at him. You have already seen the message, haven't you? Elias nodded. Then you know why the hunters are after you. They want to awaken the ancient power hidden beneath this city. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed through the underground streets. Dust fell from the buildings. The hunters had entered the lost city. Cale looked toward the sound. They found us. Elias held the golden key tightly. What should we do? Cale picked up his ancient weapon. Now you must choose. You can run away and let history repeat itself, or you can become the guardian your family was meant to be. The ground started shaking again. Deep beneath the city, something ancient began to awaken. The entire underground city trembled as a deep sound came from beneath the ground. Dust fell from the ancient buildings, and cracks appeared on the stone streets. Elias looked at Cale with fear in his eyes. What is happening? Cale stared toward the center of the city. The thing your ancestors buried is waking up. They quickly moved through the abandoned streets. As they walked, Elias noticed thousands of carvings on the walls. Each one showed the history of the lost civilization. There were images of great inventions, powerful rulers, and finally a terrible war. At the end of the wall was a picture of a guardian holding the golden key. But this time, Elias noticed something different. The guardian was not alone. Beside him stood another person carrying the same symbol. Two guardians. Elias whispered. Cale nodded. The key was never meant to be protected by one person. There were always two guardians. Before Elias could ask more, a group of hunters appeared between the ancient buildings. Their leader stepped forward. You cannot hide forever, Elias. Kale moved in front of him. You don't belong here. The leader smiled. Neither do you. Your family failed to protect this place once. Now we will finish what they started. The hunters moved closer. Suddenly, the golden key began glowing in Elias's hand. A hidden door appeared beneath the ground. Kale looked surprised. The key has chosen you. Elias stared at the doorway. Beyond it was the final chamber of the lost civilization. But from inside came a strange sound. Something was waiting for him. Kale looked at Elias and said quietly, "Whatever you see beyond that door, remember one thing. The greatest danger is not what is hidden underground. It is what people are willing to do to control it." Elias slowly opened the ancient door beneath the lost city. A cold wind came from inside, carrying the smell of forgotten centuries. Kale followed closely behind him as they entered the final chamber. The room was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness, and the walls were covered with glowing symbols. In the center stood a giant stone structure holding a mysterious black crystal. Elias felt a strange connection with it. "This is what everyone has been searching for," he whispered. Kale nodded. "The heart of the lost civilization." Elias stepped closer. "What does it do?" Kale looked serious. "It contains the knowledge of our ancestors. Medicine, inventions, secrets of nature, everything they discovered. But it also holds a dangerous power. In the wrong hands, it can bring destruction." Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. The hunters had arrived. Their leader entered the chamber and smiled. "Finally. After centuries of waiting, the power will belong to us." Kale raised his weapon. "You will never control it." The leader laughed. "You still believe the old stories? The world belongs to those who have power." He walked toward the crystal. But as soon as he touched it, the entire chamber shook violently. The crystal released a dark wave of energy, throwing everyone backward. A voice filled the room. "Only the true guardian can awaken the heart." The hunters looked shocked. Elias stared at the crystal. The golden key in his hand began floating in the air and moved toward the black crystal. A bright light filled the chamber. Then a message appeared on the wall. The final guardian must choose between power and protection. Elias realized this was not a test of strength. It was a test of his heart. He reached toward the glowing crystal, knowing that his decision would change the future forever. Elias placed his hand near the glowing crystal. The entire chamber became silent, as if the ancient city itself was waiting for his decision. A voice echoed around him. "Power can create kingdoms, but it can also destroy them. What will you choose, Guardian?" Elias looked at the hunters behind him. Their eyes were filled with greed. They wanted the crystal only for control. Then he looked at Kale, who had protected this secret for years. Elias finally understood. The true power was not inside the crystal. It was the choice to protect it. "I choose to protect," Elias said. The golden key suddenly shined brighter than ever before. A wave of light spread across the chamber, surrounding the black crystal. The hunters stepped forward, but they were pushed back by an invisible force. Their leader shouted in anger. "You don't understand what you are giving up." Elias looked at him calmly. "Some things are too dangerous to belong to anyone." The crystal began changing. The dark energy disappeared, and the chamber slowly became peaceful. Kale smiled. "The guardian has awakened." But suddenly, a loud crack came from beneath the city. The ground split open, revealing a hidden staircase leading even deeper underground. Elias looked down in confusion. There is something else beneath this place. Kale's expression changed. No, this was never supposed to open. A cold wind rose from the darkness below. Then an ancient symbol appeared on the stairs. A symbol that neither Elias nor Kale had ever seen before. From the depths came a voice older than the city itself. The first secret has been revealed, but the greatest secret still remains. Elias looked into the darkness. He had thought his journey was ending. But he was wrong. The real mystery was only beginning. Elias and Cale stood at the edge of the hidden staircase, staring into the darkness below. The voice from the depths continued to echo through the ancient city. The greatest secret still remains. Elias felt a strange fear inside him, but his curiosity was stronger. "What is down there?" he asked. Cale looked worried. "I don't know. This place was hidden even from the guardians." Together, they began walking down the stone stairs. Each step took them deeper beneath the lost civilization. The walls around them were different from everything they had seen before. The carvings showed no battles or kings. Instead, they showed strange creatures, unknown worlds, and people looking toward the stars. Elias stopped and touched one of the carvings. "These people knew things we still don't understand." Cale nodded. "Our ancestors were searching for answers beyond this world." After a long journey, they reached a massive underground door. Unlike the others, this door had no lock or symbol. Only one sentence was written on it. "Truth cannot be hidden forever." Elias stepped closer. The golden key in his hand began glowing, but it did not open the door. Instead, the door reacted to Elias himself. A deep sound filled the chamber. The ancient door slowly opened. Behind it was a room unlike anything they had ever seen. In the center floated a strange object surrounded by light. Cale stared in disbelief. "Impossible." Elias looked at him. "What is it?" Cale whispered. "The first creation of our ancestors, the secret they erased from history." Suddenly, the object began to awaken. And a voice spoke directly to Elias. "Welcome back, last guardian." Elias stood silently as the mysterious object floated above the ground. Its light filled the entire chamber, revealing symbols that had been hidden for thousands of years. The voice spoke again. "You have returned to the place where everything began." Elias looked around in confusion. "Who are you?" A moment of silence followed. Then the voice answered. "I am the memory of the first guardians. I was created to protect the knowledge of this civilization." Cale stepped forward carefully. "This cannot be possible. The first guardians disappeared centuries ago." The voice replied. "They did not disappear. They sacrificed themselves to protect the world from a power that humans were not ready to control." Elias looked at the glowing object. "Why did my family hide this secret?" The chamber became quiet. Then the voice revealed the truth. "Because your ancestors discovered that the greatest danger was not the power itself, but the people who wanted to use it." Suddenly, images appeared in the air. Elias saw his ancestors fighting against armies that wanted to steal the knowledge of the lost civilization. He saw guardians protecting the secret generation after generation. But then he saw something shocking. One guardian betrayed the others. And that betrayal caused the fall of the ancient city. Elias stepped back. "Someone from my family did this?" The voice answered. "Every family carries both light and darkness. The choice of one person does not decide the future of all." Before Elias could respond, a loud explosion shook the chamber. The hunters had found another way inside. Cale looked toward the entrance. "They are coming." The glowing object sent a final message to Elias. "The time has arrived. The last guardian must protect the truth, or watch history repeat itself." Elias turned toward the approaching footsteps. This time, he was no longer afraid. He was ready. The sound of footsteps grew louder as the hunters entered the ancient chamber. Their leader looked around at the glowing symbols and smiled. So this is where the truth was hidden. Elias stood between them and the mysterious object. You will not take it. The leader laughed. You still don't understand, Elias. The world outside is falling apart because people lack knowledge. With this power, we can rebuild everything. Kale stepped forward. No. You don't want to rebuild the world. You want to control it. The leader's smile disappeared. Control is just another word for order. The hunters moved closer. Suddenly, the ancient object released a wave of light. Every symbol on the walls began glowing, and a hidden message appeared. Only those who seek wisdom may pass. Those who seek power will be destroyed. The hunters stopped. For the first time, fear appeared on their faces. The leader ignored the warning and reached toward the object. The moment his hand touched it, the chamber began shaking violently. Dark energy surrounded him. He screamed as memories from the past appeared around him. He saw the destruction caused by greed, wars created by ambition, and civilizations that had fallen because people wanted too much power. The object rejected him. He fell to the ground. Elias looked at the scene in shock. The ancient voice spoke again. The heart of knowledge cannot be owned. It can only be protected. The hunters began retreating, but their leader stood up with anger in his eyes. This is not over. He disappeared into the darkness with his followers. Kale looked at Elias. You have passed the final test. Elias looked at the glowing object. But what happens now? Kale smiled slightly. Now, the real responsibility begins. Elias looked at the ancient object floating in the center of the chamber. The words of the guardian's voice continued to echo in his mind. The real responsibility begins. For the first time, Elias understood why his ancestors had hidden this place. They were not protecting a treasure. They were protecting the balance of the world. Kale walked toward the glowing object and touched the ancient symbols on the wall. There is one final thing you must see. The wall slowly opened, revealing a hidden room behind it. Inside were hundreds of ancient books, maps, and records. Each one contained knowledge collected by the lost civilization. Elias picked up an old book. On the cover was written, "The Guardian's Chronicle." As he opened it, he discovered the names of every guardian who had protected the secret throughout history. Then he saw the final page. His own name was already written there. Elias stepped back in disbelief. How could they know I would come here? Kale looked at him. Because the guardians did not predict the future. They prepared for it. Suddenly, the ground shook again. But this time, the danger was not coming from the hunters. A crack appeared across the floor, and a deep sound came from below. The ancient voice returned. Another seal has been broken. Kale's face became serious. There was another secret beneath this city. Elias looked at the darkness below. What kind of secret? Kale slowly answered. The reason this civilization was created in the first place. A powerful force rose from beneath them. The lights in the chamber began fading one by one. Then a new symbol appeared on the wall. A symbol that looked older than the lost civilization itself. Elias realized something terrifying. The ancient city was not hiding a secret. It was hiding a warning. Elias stared at the new symbol appearing on the ancient wall. It looked different from every mark he had seen before. It was older, darker, and carried a strange feeling of danger. Kale stepped closer, his face filled with fear. I thought this symbol was only a legend. Elias looked at him. What does it mean? Kale remained silent for a moment. It means the first enemy has awakened. A cold wind rushed through the chamber. The ancient books on the shelves began turning their pages by themselves. Suddenly, one of the books fell to the ground and opened to a hidden message. Elias picked it up and read. When the guardian finds the heart, the forgotten shadow will rise. His heart started beating faster. The forgotten shadow? Cale nodded. Long before this city was hidden, there was someone who wanted to use the knowledge for himself. He was the first person to betray the Guardians. Where is he now? Elias asked. Cale looked toward the darkness beneath the chamber. Waiting. Suddenly, a powerful force shook the entire underground city. The walls cracked, and pieces of stone fell from the ceiling. Then a voice echoed from below. After all these years, the Guardian has finally returned. Elias and Cale looked at each other. The voice was not from the ancient machine. It was from something alive. Something that had been waiting for centuries. The golden key in Elias's hand became cold. The ancient voice whispered one final warning. Do not let him reach the surface. Elias tightened his grip on the key. The journey that began with a hidden tunnel had now revealed a much greater danger. And somewhere beneath the lost city, an ancient enemy was waking up. Elias stared at the new symbol appearing on the ancient wall. It looked different from every mark he had seen before. It was older, darker, and carried a strange feeling of danger. Cale stepped closer, his face filled with fear. I thought this symbol was only a legend. Elias looked at him. What does it mean? Cale remained silent for a moment. It means the first enemy has awakened. A cold wind rushed through the chamber. The ancient books on the shelves began turning their pages by themselves. Suddenly, one of the books fell to the ground and opened to a hidden message. Elias picked it up and read. When the Guardian finds the heart, the forgotten shadow will rise. His heart started beating faster. The forgotten shadow? Cale nodded. Long before this city was hidden, there was someone who wanted to use the knowledge for himself. He was the first person to betray the Guardians. Where is he now? Elias asked. Cale looked toward the darkness beneath the chamber. Waiting. Suddenly, a powerful force shook the entire underground city. The walls cracked, and pieces of stone fell from the ceiling. Then a voice echoed from below. After all these years, the Guardian has finally returned. Elias and Cale looked at each other. The voice was not from the ancient machine. It was from something alive. Something that had been waiting for centuries. The golden key in Elias's hand became cold. The ancient voice whispered one final warning. Do not let him reach the surface. Elias tightened his grip on the key. The journey that began with a hidden tunnel had now revealed a much greater danger. And somewhere beneath the lost city, an ancient enemy was waking up. The ground continued shaking as Elias and Cale stood inside the ancient chamber. The voice from below became louder, filling the entire lost city with fear. He has returned. Cale looked toward the darkness. We must leave this place now. Elias looked confused. Why? We have to stop him. Cale shook his head. You don't understand. The enemy we are facing is not like the hunters. He was one of the greatest minds of the ancient world. His knowledge was beyond anything we have today. A deep roar came from beneath them. The hidden staircase they had discovered began glowing with a dark light. Something was coming. Elias held the golden key tightly. Then we cannot run. Cale looked at him. Are you ready to face something that destroyed an entire civilization? Elias remembered everything he had learned, the secrets of his family, the sacrifices of the Guardians, and the responsibility he now carried. I didn't come this far to hide. Cale smiled slightly. Then you truly are the last Guardian. Together, they walked toward the darkness below. At the bottom of the stairs, they found a massive underground chamber. In the center stood a tall figure covered in ancient armor. For centuries, he had been trapped inside a crystal prison. But now the crystal was breaking. The figure opened his eyes. A powerful voice filled the chamber. After hundreds of years, someone finally brought me the key. Elias stepped forward. Who are you? The figure smiled. I am the person your ancestors feared most. The crystal shattered. The ancient enemy was free. The ancient enemy stepped out from the broken crystal prison. Dust covered his armor, but his eyes were still filled with power and intelligence. Elias stood ready with the golden key in his hand. Who are you? He asked again. The figure looked at him and smiled. My name is Archon. I was once a guardian of this civilization. Kale's expression changed. A guardian? Archon looked around the chamber. Yes. I protected this city before your ancestors even existed. But they betrayed me because they feared my vision. Elias shook his head. You wanted to use the power for yourself. Archon laughed quietly. Power is not evil. Weak people simply fear those who know how to use it. The chamber became silent. Kale raised his weapon. You destroyed this civilization. Archon looked at him coldly. No. I tried to save it. The people were afraid of change, and their fear destroyed everything. Suddenly, Archon looked at the golden key. But now the key has returned to me. He reached forward. The key began pulling toward him. Elias held it tightly, fighting against the strange force. The ancient voice echoed through the chamber. Guardian, remember your purpose. Elias closed his eyes and remembered the words written by his ancestors. Knowledge was not meant to control. It was meant to protect. With all his strength, Elias pulled the key back. A powerful light exploded from it, pushing Archon away. For the first time, Archon looked surprised. You have chosen the path of the old guardians. Elias looked at him. And you chose the path that destroyed them. The battle for the lost civilization had finally begun. The chamber shook as Elias and Archon faced each other. The golden key released a powerful light, while the ancient enemy's armor began glowing with dark energy. Kale moved beside Elias. Be careful. Archon is not just powerful. He knows the secrets of this place better than anyone. Archon smiled. You still believe a young guardian can defeat me? He raised his hand, and the ancient symbols on the walls changed. The entire chamber transformed, creating a storm of energy around them. Elias struggled to stand. Archon walked closer. For centuries, I waited for the key to return. With it, I can restore the lost civilization and create a new world. Elias looked at him. A world where everyone must obey you. Archon's expression became cold. Sometimes people need someone strong enough to decide their future. Kale shouted. That is exactly why you failed. Archon sent a powerful wave toward Kale, knocking him to the ground. Elias ran to help him, but Archon blocked his way. You are just like your ancestors. Always protecting others instead of seeking greatness. Elias looked at the golden key. Then he understood something. The key was never a weapon. It was a connection between the guardians and the knowledge they protected. Elias placed the key on the ground. Archon looked surprised. What are you doing? Elias replied. Ending this. The chamber began glowing. The ancient symbols awakened, and a hidden message appeared. The true guardian does not control the power. The true guardian becomes its protector. A bright light surrounded Elias. For the first time in centuries, the lost civilization began to awaken. The entire underground city began to awaken. Ancient lights turned on one by one, and the forgotten streets that had remained silent for centuries were filled with a strange energy. Archon stepped back in shock. No, this is impossible. Elias stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by the light of the ancient guardians. The voice of the lost civilization echoed again. The guardian has understood the truth. Kale slowly stood up and looked at Elias with surprise. You did what no guardian could do before. Elias looked confused. What did I do? Kale smiled. You didn't try to own the power. You trusted it. Suddenly, the walls around them displayed images from the past. Elias saw the first guardians creating the city, protecting knowledge, and making a promise that the power would never be used for personal gain. Then he saw Archon's past. He was once a great protector, but his desire to change the world slowly became an obsession with controlling it. Archon looked away. You don't know what I suffered. I watched this civilization disappear because people were too afraid. Elias looked at him. Maybe you wanted to save the world, but you forgot that people need freedom too. For the first time, Archon became silent. Suddenly, the ancient crystal beneath the chamber began cracking. Kale looked worried. The power is becoming unstable. The voice of the guardians warned them. The balance has been restored, but the final choice remains. Elias looked at Archon. What choice? A hidden door opened behind the crystal. Inside was a path leading to the surface. But another message appeared. One must stay behind to protect the secret forever. Elias realized the journey was not over. Someone had to make the final sacrifice. Elias stared at the message carved into the ancient wall. One must stay behind to protect the secret forever. The chamber became silent. Kale looked at Elias. No guardian has ever reached this point before. Elias looked toward the hidden path leading to the surface. Does that mean someone has to remain here? Kale nodded slowly. The knowledge of this civilization is too dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands. Archon watched them quietly. For the first time, the anger in his eyes disappeared. I spent my entire life trying to control this power, he said. And now I understand why the Guardians protected it. Elias looked at him. What are you saying? Archon walked toward the ancient crystal. I was the reason this place needed protection. Perhaps I am the one who should stay. Kale looked surprised. After everything you did? Archon lowered his head. Yes. I made mistakes. But I can still fix what I destroyed. The crystal began glowing brighter. The ancient voice spoke. The past cannot be changed. But the future can be protected. Elias realized that this was not a battle between good and evil anymore. It was about choices. Archon placed his hand on the crystal. The dark energy around him slowly disappeared. The chamber became peaceful. Elias, Archon said, remember this. True power is not the ability to rule others. It is the courage to protect them. The hidden path to the surface opened completely. Kale looked at Elias. You must go now. The world needs to know that the Guardians still exist. Elias looked back at the ancient city one last time. He knew he would never forget the secrets buried beneath the earth. Then he stepped toward the light, leaving behind the lost civilization and the Guardian who chose redemption. Elias and Kale walked through the passage leading to the surface. As they reached the end of the tunnel, the first rays of sunrise lit the entrance. Elias turned back one last time. The hidden doorway slowly closed, disappearing behind solid rock as if it had never existed. It's over, Elias whispered. Kale shook his head. No. The secret is safe, but the story is not over. Before Elias could reply, the golden key in his pocket suddenly became warm. He took it out. It was glowing again. I thought the key had fulfilled its purpose, Elias said. Kale looked surprised. It should have. The light from the key formed a small map in the air. Neither of them had seen it before. The map pointed far beyond the mountains, toward an unknown island in the middle of the sea. Below it, ancient words appeared. The second sanctuary awaits the final guardian. Elias frowned. There was another sanctuary. Kale slowly nodded. The old stories spoke of several hidden places, but everyone believed they were only myths. A cold breeze passed over the mountain. Then they heard the sound of an engine. A black helicopter appeared in the distance and landed near the valley. Several people stepped out, all wearing the same symbol the hunters had used. Their leader looked directly at Elias. "We're too late," he said. Another person replied. "No, the guardian is still here." Elias closed his hand around the golden key. He had protected one secret. Now another was calling him. His next journey had already begun. The helicopter's blade slowed to a stop as the group moved toward Elias and Cale. Their leader raised both hands. "We're not here to fight." Cale didn't lower his weapon. That's exactly what the last group said. The man stopped a few steps away. "My name is Rowan. We belong to the Order of Watchers." Elias frowned. "The Watchers?" Rowan nodded. "For centuries, we have searched for the hidden sanctuaries, not to control them, but to make sure they remain protected." Cale looked unconvinced. "Then why were you following us?" "Because the hunters were never working alone," Rowan replied. "Their defeat was only the beginning." Elias took out the glowing key. "It showed us another sanctuary." Rowan's face turned serious. "Then there's no time to waste." He unfolded an old map. On it, several ancient symbols were marked across the world. Most had been crossed out. Only one remained. The second sanctuary. Before anyone could speak, the golden key flashed with a blinding light. A new message appeared above it. "The second seal has weakened." At the same moment, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Far out at sea, a towering column of blue light rose into the sky. Everyone stared in silence. Rowan slowly rolled up the map. "The sanctuary has awakened." Elias looked toward the distant horizon. He had barely survived the first journey. Now he had to find the second sanctuary. Before someone else reached it first. The blue light remained visible on the horizon, reaching high into the sky. Rowan looked at Elias. "We leave immediately." Within hours, the group boarded a small ship and sailed toward the mysterious island marked on the ancient map. The sea was unusually calm. No birds flew overhead. No other boats could be seen. It was as if the ocean itself was hiding the island. As night fell, a thick fog surrounded the ship. The compass stopped moving. The engines suddenly died. "What happened?" Elias asked. One of the crew members looked frightened. "We've lost all direction." Then the golden key began glowing once more. A narrow path of light appeared across the water. Rowan pointed ahead. "Follow the light." The ship moved slowly through the fog until a dark shape emerged in the distance. It was an island. Towering cliffs surrounded it, and at the center stood the ruins of an enormous temple. As the ship reached the shore, Elias stepped onto the sand. The key became warmer than ever before. Carved into a stone near the beach were ancient words. "Only the true guardian may enter." Before anyone could move, the ground shook. The sea behind them began to rise. A massive wave formed in the darkness. But it did not crash. Instead, the water split apart. From the ocean floor, an enormous stone gate slowly rose into the air. The entrance to the second sanctuary had revealed itself. Elias took a deep breath. Another hidden world was waiting beyond the gate. The enormous stone gate stood silently before the group. Ancient symbols glowed across its surface, matching the markings on the golden key. Elias stepped forward. As soon as he raised the key, the gate trembled and slowly opened. Beyond it lay a long stone bridge leading into the heart of the island. Rowan looked around cautiously. "Stay together. No one knows what protects this sanctuary." The group crossed the bridge in silence. At the end stood a circular hall unlike anything Elias had seen before. Instead of statues, 12 stone pillars surrounded the room. Each pillar held a crystal of a different color. Only one crystal was dark. The golden key suddenly floated from Elias's hand and stopped above the dark crystal. A voice echoed through the hall. The first guardian has arrived. The second trial begins. The floor beneath them started moving. Huge stone walls rose from the ground, separating Elias from the others. Elias! Cale shouted. But his voice faded behind the closing walls. Now Elias stood alone. In front of him appeared 3 ancient doors. Above each door was a single word. Courage. Wisdom. Power. The voice returned. Choose only one. One path will reveal the truth. One path will trap you forever. And one path will end your journey. Elias stared at the 3 doors. There were no clues. Only silence. He slowly stepped toward a door. Knowing that one wrong choice could change everything. Elias stood before the 3 ancient doors. Courage. Wisdom. Power. He remembered Archon's final words. True power is the courage to protect others. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Then he ignored the door marked power and walked toward wisdom. As his hand touched the stone, the door opened without a sound. Inside was a circular library filled with thousands of ancient books. In the center stood a single pedestal holding a blank page. A voice echoed through the room. Knowledge is worthless without understanding. Suddenly, the blank page began filling with words. It told the complete history of the Guardians, their victories, their failures, and the mistakes that nearly destroyed the world. At the bottom of the page, one final question appeared. What is the greatest treasure? 3 answers slowly formed beneath it. Knowledge. Power. Choice. Elias thought carefully. Knowledge could be misused. Power could corrupt. But choice determined how both were used. He placed his hand on the word choice. The room filled with brilliant light. The books disappeared, and the voice spoke once more. The trial is past. A hidden doorway opened at the far end of the library. Before Elias stepped through it, he noticed something carved above the exit. Only one trial remains before the second sanctuary reveals its true purpose. Taking a deep breath, Elias walked forward, unaware that the hardest test of his life was still waiting. Elias stepped through the hidden doorway and entered a vast chamber unlike any he had seen before. The room was completely empty. No statues. No books. No symbols. Only a large mirror stood in the center. As Elias approached, he expected to see his reflection. Instead, he saw another version of himself. This Elias wore dark armor and held the golden key with pride. I've been waiting for you, the reflection said. Elias froze. Who are you? I am the guardian you could become. The mirror showed a future where Elias ruled with the ancient knowledge. Cities obeyed him, wars had ended, and the world was united. It looks peaceful, Elias whispered. The reflection smiled. Because I chose power. Then the image changed. The peaceful cities became silent prisons. People no longer had freedom. Every decision belonged to one ruler. The reflection looked at Elias. Order always has a price. The mirror suddenly cracked. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. The final trial is not against an enemy. It is against yourself. The reflection stepped out of the mirror. Now 2 guardians stood face to face. One fought for control. The other fought for freedom. The chamber doors closed behind them. Only one guardian would leave the room. Elias tightened his grip on the golden key as his own reflection slowly drew a shining sword. The reflection charged forward, its sword cutting through the air. Elias barely dodged the attack. "You don't have to fight," he shouted. The reflection smiled. "I am every fear, every doubt, and every temptation inside you. I cannot be reasoned with." The battle echoed through the chamber. Each time Elias attacked, the reflection matched his every move. It was like fighting himself. Minutes passed, but neither could gain the advantage. Then Elias remembered the lesson of every trial. The answer had never been force. He lowered the golden key and stepped back. The reflection stopped. "Why aren't you fighting?" Elias took a deep breath. "Because defeating you won't change who I am. I have to accept that fear and power will always exist." The chamber fell silent. The reflection slowly lowered its sword. For the first time, it smiled, not with pride, but with respect. "You have learned what the first guardians hoped someone would understand." The sword disappeared. The reflection walked back toward the mirror. Before fading away, it said, "A true guardian does not destroy his darkness. He chooses not to be ruled by it." The mirror dissolved into light. A hidden staircase rose from the floor. The ancient voice echoed one last time. "The second sanctuary accepts its guardian." Elias looked toward the staircase. At the top waited a massive stone door, glowing with ancient symbols. He knew that beyond it lay the greatest secret the guardians had protected for thousands of years. Elias climbed the stone staircase until he reached the glowing door. As he placed the golden key against it, the ancient symbols lit up one by one. With a deep rumble, the door slowly opened. Inside was a peaceful chamber bathed in soft blue light. At its center floated a crystal globe showing the entire world. Tiny points of light appeared across the continents, each marking a hidden sanctuary. Elias counted them. There were 7. "So the stories were true," he whispered. The ancient voice answered. "The first sanctuary protected knowledge. The second protects balance. 5 more remain hidden." As Elias watched, one of the glowing lights suddenly turned dark. The room trembled. A new message appeared above the crystal globe. "The third sanctuary has been breached." Elias felt his heart race. "Someone got there before us?" The voice replied. "Yes." A shadow appeared inside the crystal. It wasn't Archon. It wasn't the hunters. It was someone wearing a silver mask, holding a key identical to Elias's. The masked figure looked directly at him through the crystal. "You've awakened the sanctuaries," the stranger said. "Now I'll claim them." The image vanished. The blue light faded, leaving the chamber in silence. Elias picked up the golden key. His mission had changed. He was no longer searching for hidden places. Now he had to stop someone who already knew where they were. Elias stood in silence, staring at the crystal globe. One sanctuary had already fallen, and a mysterious figure now possessed a key just like his. Kale and Rowan finally entered the chamber. "What happened?" Rowan asked. Elias pointed to the globe. "We're too late. The third sanctuary has been breached." Kale's face turned pale. That has never happened before. Suddenly, the globe projected another vision into the air. The masked stranger stood inside a ruined temple, holding a silver key above an ancient altar. As the key touched the stone, a powerful beam of light shot into the sky. Then the stranger spoke. "I don't seek power. I seek the truth the guardians were too afraid to reveal." The vision ended. Rowan folded his arms. "If he isn't after power, then what does he want?" The ancient voice answered from the chamber. "There is one secret even the guardians were forbidden to uncover." Elias looked up. "What secret?" The room became completely silent. Then a single sentence appeared across the crystal globe. "Who created the first sanctuary?" No one spoke. For the first time, even Kale had no answer. The Guardians had always believed the sanctuaries were built by their ancestors. But now, it seemed their ancestors had only inherited them. Far away, another pillar of light rose into the sky. The race for the next sanctuary had already begun. Elias, Kale, and Rowan left the second sanctuary before sunrise. The crystal globe had revealed the direction of the next light, leading them toward a remote mountain range no map had ever marked. For days they traveled across forests and cliffs. Finally, they reached an ancient stone arch standing alone on a frozen peak. There was no temple. No ruins. Only the arch. As Elias stepped closer, the golden key vibrated in his hand. Ancient symbols appeared across the stone, forming a single message. Only those who seek the beginning may enter. Elias placed the key against the arch. A circle of blue light opened inside it like a doorway. Beyond it was not another cave. It was an entirely different landscape. Floating islands drifted through the sky. Waterfalls flowed upward instead of down. Massive stone pillars stretched into the clouds. Rowan stared in disbelief. "This isn't possible." Kale whispered. "Maybe the sanctuaries were never part of our world." Before they could enter, a familiar voice echoed from above. "You've arrived sooner than I expected." The silver-masked stranger stood on one of the floating islands, holding the second key. He looked at Elias. "If you want the truth, come and take it." Then he disappeared into the glowing mist. Elias stepped through the portal without hesitation. The moment he crossed, the gateway behind him vanished. There was no path back. Only the unknown world ahead. Elias found himself standing on a floating island surrounded by endless sky. The air was calm, but the world felt ancient beyond imagination. Ahead, the silver-masked stranger waited beside a circle of glowing stones. "You finally came," the stranger said. Elias stepped forward. "Who are you?" The stranger removed the silver mask. Kale gasped. "It can't be." The man smiled. "My name is Orion. I was once a guardian." Elias stared in disbelief. "Then why are you breaking the sanctuaries?" Orion looked toward the floating islands. "I'm not destroying them. I'm waking them." He pointed to the sky. The Guardians believed they were protecting the world. They never realized the sanctuaries were actually prisons. "Prisons?" Elias asked. "Yes," Orion replied. "Long ago, your ancestors sealed away a force they could not understand. They called it dangerous because they feared it." Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A brilliant light appeared in the sky. The ancient voice returned. "The final seal is weakening." Orion looked at Elias. "You have one last choice. Help me reveal the truth, or protect the lie that has lasted for thousands of years." Before Elias could answer, the floating islands began moving toward a massive gate hidden in the clouds. Above it were ancient words. The Origin Sanctuary. The final destination had revealed itself. The floating islands slowly gathered around the enormous gate. Lightning flashed across the clouds as the Origin Sanctuary opened for the first time in thousands of years. Elias, Kale, Rowan, and Orion entered together. Inside, there was no treasure. No weapons. Only a single crystal resting on a stone pedestal. An ancient voice filled the hall. "This is the first light, the source from which every sanctuary was created." Visions appeared around them. Elias watched as the first guardians discovered the crystal. It held endless knowledge, but they feared humanity would misuse it. So they divided its power into 7 sanctuaries and sealed them forever. Orion looked at Elias. "They hid the truth because they believed people weren't ready." Kale replied. "Or perhaps they were right." The crystal suddenly cracked. A wave of energy spread through the sanctuary. The voice spoke again. The final guardian must decide. Keep the sanctuaries sealed. Or return their knowledge to the world. Everyone turned toward Elias. The decision that would shape the future was now his alone. Elias walked slowly toward the glowing crystal. He remembered every lesson the guardians had taught him. Knowledge could save lives, but in the wrong hands it could also destroy civilizations. Orion stood beside him. "Set it free," he said. "People deserve the truth." Cale shook his head. "No. Some secrets are too dangerous." Elias closed his eyes. Then he realized the answer was neither choice. He placed the golden key beside the crystal. "I won't hide the truth," he said. "But I won't give unlimited power to anyone either." The crystal responded immediately. Instead of breaking apart, it divided into countless beams of light that spread across the world. The ancient voice echoed through the sanctuary. "The final guardian has chosen balance." The 7 sanctuaries began to fade. Their dangerous power disappeared, but their knowledge remained, hidden in books, memories, and history, where it could be earned rather than controlled. Orion smiled. "So, this is the future the first guardians never imagined." The sanctuary started collapsing. Cale looked at Elias. "We have to leave." The 4 of them ran toward the exit as the ancient halls disappeared behind them. Outside, the floating island slowly dissolved into the sky. Only one chapter remained. The story of the last guardian was about to reach its end. Elias watched as the last floating island faded into the clouds. The golden key in his hand slowly turned into dust and disappeared. Its purpose was complete. Cale smiled. "The age of the guardians has ended." Rowan looked at the horizon. "No, it has changed." Weeks later, Elias returned to the place where his journey had begun, the forgotten tunnel beneath the old ruins. The entrance was gone. There was no sign that the hidden world had ever existed. Only a single stone remained. On it were carved the final words of the first guardians. "The greatest treasure is not power. It is the wisdom to choose how it is used." Elias smiled. He now understood why his ancestors had sacrificed everything. Some secrets were never meant to be owned. They were meant to guide humanity. Years passed. The world slowly advanced as forgotten knowledge inspired new discoveries in science, medicine, and history, but no one possessed enough power to control everyone else. Balance had been preserved. One evening, Elias placed the old journal of the Guardians inside a quiet library, leaving it for a future generation to discover when humanity was truly ready. As he walked away, he never looked back. The story of the last guardian became nothing more than a legend. A legend reminding people that true greatness is not found in power, but in the choices we make. The end.